Thanks for joining me for Serious Addict Talk. That's the topic today, when weight loss isn't your problem. Sometimes people reach out and their problem goes far deeper than dropping a spare tire from their midsection, or from maybe losing 20 pounds for a reunion or something of that nature. Their struggle gets into really bad territory. And today we're going to talk about the signs of that, whether or not you are a serious addict. There are situations where professional help is in order and recommended. Ever so often I get somebody who reaches out and they kind of fit into that category, although it isn't really that often. So what are the signs of a serious addict? Number one, you leave a trail of destruction in your wake. This concerns family. It concerns your working relationships. It, of course, concerns your spouse. And basically, everywhere you go, you run into creating destruction. Usually, it might be on the holidays or when everybody else is having a good time. But everything in your life tends to equal disaster. You have trouble maintaining or sustaining friendships or making new ones because you are absorbed in a very dark world, whether you know it or not. You might be hearing this for the first time and you might be putting it together. But think about it for a moment. You leave a trail of destruction in your wake. You can't seem to navigate effectively. Number two, you have grand affirmations of a better life, but never seem to get closer to making big self-improvements. You might even be really big on self-improvement. You might be on the self-improvement kick. You might order a bunch of books, self-help books. You might be in 12-step programs. You might be trying to get better, but you can't seem to enact the lessons. I used to manage a security team at a reform school in Central Texas. And one of the things that I would always hear from the disturbed young people was, I just want to do nice things for people. They would say, I just want to make the world a better place. I want to do nice things for people. I have heard that for years, and it has been, to me, kind of the hallmark of a disturbed mind. Everybody wants things to go well. The cliche, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, that is always something that someone who is wicked says, or if not wicked, disturbed, like we're talking about here. The sad reality of things is that life is filled with people who want a better life but can't make one for themselves. Of course, we all want a better life. We all want a happier life. But seeing that afar is not the same as bringing it near. And just seeing it is not going to be enough. The same way people who read self-help books, most of them, are themselves the ones who can't be helped. I'm terribly sorry to drop this on you today. But it is extremely, troublingly true. Every once in a while, I'll put out these videos, or I'll have a string of videos that people regard as depression videos, and people send messages in the mail or in the email and say, that's very depressing. Why are you talking about that? Because that's my gift, to be able to face some very negative truths about human nature. But the big reality is that most people who talk self-improvement themselves cannot improve. That's the contradiction. And in a minute here, we're going to get down to the what to do. Number three, everyone or almost everyone who knows you well cuts you off after a while. So the people in your life, not only can you not sustain relationships per point number one, but everybody who is outside of you starts to get to know you and they cut you off. And they do that to protect themselves and those in their life with whom you have to do. because they realize that there are self-destructive qualities in you that are going to get the better of everyone. It's like, make the analogy of quarantine. The Center for Disease Control has the authority to quarantine a hospital if they believe there is a severe outbreak that could be detrimental to the public. And they don't do this because they don't like you. They do this because you are toxic. Are you a toxic person? Are you someone with whom the world is better off without? How many people have cut you off? How many people have forbidden you to contact them? Well, this is a sign that we're going up a notch. This is not food addiction. This is not carb addiction. This is not any typical addiction. This is much, much deeper stuff. Number 4, you always seem to have enablers close at hand. Enablers are as organic to the addiction process as a wise man is to learning lessons. The Chinese proverb says, as when the student is ready, the teacher appears, but it's the same thing in the opposite direction. Enablers are always around you because you are predisposed to self-destruction. So everyone to you can be, or nearly everyone can be, an enabler. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about being a victim and how this is different for you than for others. Number 5, you have had one or both, or a number rather, of the following. Number 1, drug addiction, or alcohol addiction, which is the same thing. Number 2, sex addiction. Number 3, you have gone through molestation, which has impacted you negatively throughout your life. And number 4, gambling. I'm going to assume food addiction is probably one of the reasons you're watching this topic, so I won't put it in the list, but it's the same. Folks, all addiction is addiction. Yes, a person may be prone to alcohol addiction because they came from a long line of drinkers, or you can sit here all day and dispute whether or not there is a genetic hand involved, whether or not someone is predisposed or not, but really that doesn't matter. And I get the same thing with diabetes. I get people that say, well, my father wasn't diabetic, my mother wasn't diabetic, so how could I be diabetic? It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have a condition that is purely your own. So if you have or have had any element of those, understand that it's the same thing. And that's why fasting makes people better in whole. It's not just one area. That's why those who lose weight also learn how to quit drugs, quit smoking. They learn to not blame themselves for things that happened to them that were outside of their control. I have talked with a lot of people who started overeating because they were molested. You go through life and you find all of these connections. So what can I say to you today? I don't want to get this video too long because this is a very sensitive topic. Well, weight loss isn't your problem. Put aside all the other things and recognize that if the things I've said today are true for you, you need to start following a little bit of advice here. First of all, do not picture yourself as inferior or superior to those around you. Do not assign to yourself victim status. Understand that something happened to you that had a major impact on your life and will continue to if you let it. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop saying this or that. It is very common for those who are addicts to think that everybody else has the same struggle. Guess what? They don't. Alcohol has no appeal to me. I don't drink on holidays. I don't drink on special occasions. I used to, and I used to enjoy a little beer or something. I don't. The trouble with me would be totally different. My trouble is kind of an inner angst, an existential crisis. I contemplate, I'm a philosopher by nature, so I would be much more prone to struggling with depression versus something else. But your own struggles are your own struggles. Stop judging yourself by someone else, and do not assume because you have a problem somebody else has the same problem. Instead, address the areas in your life. Next, start listening to those closest to you and let them help you make decisions. I have been told by wiser people than me, perception is reality. You and I can live in our own worlds to such a great degree that we say to ourselves, how are they seeing that? How is he seeing that? How is she seeing that? And yet everybody else is seeing a totally different picture in regard to depression and me. I feel like I'm very happy, but even my own family, not just you guys who watch this channel who say, smile more, smile more. I look at myself and I don't see what you see. Some of you guys say, oh, you just seem so depressed. You're exactly right. I feel like I'm very upbeat and happy, but perception is reality. So this goes back to our first point of being, perceiving yourself correctly, but it also is something that you have to start listening to. And I have learned to listen that if I am coming off overtly negative or then it's something I want to hear feedback on, because to me it's not that way. I'm not hearing it or seeing it the same way. So start listening to others. Next, complete a full life makeover to include filtering out associations, social relationships that are not productive to you. Certain people, it is a reality, especially for some. Certain people, when they're around people, the worst comes out of you. Have you ever been around someone who makes you more negative, or makes you more defeatist, or makes you more angry? And every time you're around them, you become worse. Get rid of those associations. Do a complete life makeover. You can start with fasting, delayed gratification, to clear your mind and give yourself the strength that you need. But then move on to your social relationships. Get rid of friends who are not really friends. Get rid of family members who are completely degrading and not supportive. Get away from them and stop acting as if you have no choice in the matter. Next, get rid of any and all mind-altering substances at once, forever, and always. And I'm going to change this up a little bit, and I don't normally address something that is like alcohol or substance abuse, or even something that's light like weed, use of marijuana and stuff like that. Folks, especially those of you who are a younger crowd, stop playing with any sort of gateway or potential drug, or what you're doing is escaping. You're trying to numb something out. You stop numbing stuff out. Stop trying to give yourself another filter. Don't do, and this is what alcoholics find. I have an alcoholic sister, so I know the struggle that she goes through. You have to stop forever and always going all to this escape into any type of substance. Don't look for one. It's just like I tell people in learning to fast and deal with hunger. Quit trying to rely on substitute beverages too much. If it's beyond coffee, that's as good as you're really going to get. Try not to rely on something else. And if you get rid of the mind-altering substances, the sanity will follow, or else return. I deal with so many people now who it's not just a food situation, it's also an alcohol situation. If you are young, stop cutting yourself. This is a phenomenon now where the young people will take a razor and slice themselves to get an endorphin release from the misery that I never heard of such a thing until like 5 years ago. But it has become an epidemic with people under like 23. No form of escapism is going to help you. It's only going to make the problem worse. Next, never again allow yourself to be or to feel like a victim. Never tell yourself, well, I'm this, and this is why I shudder to use the word addict, because when you say that, you give yourself victim status. We're only talking about for purposes of realization here. Stop addressing yourself as a victim. You are a person with a struggle the same way all humans struggle. But don't allow that to define you. Instead, acknowledge the problem and move onward. So I hope this list has been helpful today. If I can be of more help, reach out to me. There is a time when things get serious. And if that time is now for you, take a moment and reflect on it and make the necessary changes.